is to build an entity where we can raise money for Flushing Meadows Colonial Park. Now, quería hablar sobre la entidad que es la alianza, o la organización que estamos formando, donde se va a hacer una contribución también del USDA. Can I get some water? Thank you, Father. So, estaban hablando de qué es esa entidad, que cómo, si lo van a sacar del parque, cómo, qué rol va a jugar eso. Thank you so much. So, the alliance is being created now. It's something that is done and has been done for many parks. Not just, we always talk about Central Park because it's the big park, right? But there's a Conservancy Alliance at Prospect Park. There's one in Van Cortlandt Park. There's one in the reservoirs out in the Bronx. There's many other entities. But what makes our community and our park very special, and I think a lot of people focus on how overused it is, that it needs a lot of things, and that it's very excuse me, very defeated. But the reality is that our park probably generates more money than any park in New York City. So we think about the New York Mets, and we think about the USTA, and we thought about MLS. When they come, we go, we don't know where they are. But the reality is that we have Terrace in the Park, which is a very large concession, and they've been there forever. I went to my prom there. Many of you have been to weddings there. I probably go to an event there now every month. And it's an institution in our community. And their contribution to the city coffers is over $2 million a year. Terrace in the Park. We have the Marina. How many of you know the Marina, the restaurant over there? They're a concession. The golf putting place where you play golf, they're a concession. Every hot dog vendor in the park, the legal ones, they're concessions. The food trucks that are in the park, they're also concessions. We have a museum in that park, we have a theater in that park, we have a Hall of Science in that park, we have a carousel in that park. These are things that not even Central Park can say they have. So how do we find an entity that can organize all of this and potentially in the future be able to collect and have some of those dollars go back to the park? The only way we could do that is to have an organization that is partnered with Parks Department and the community. So, una de las razones por la cual yo quise empujar este concepto de la alianza es que muchas veces pensamos en los Mets, pensamos en el USTA, pero tenemos el gran centro de catering, donde se hacen bodas y eventos de Terrace in the Park, que pagan más de $2 millones anuales. Tenemos aquellos que pagan para vender soda, para vender frankfura, para vender otras cosas que pagan también y contribuyen anualmente. Tenemos el restaurante sobre la Marina, que también es un catering por la hora, que también. Y nos preguntamos, and have we ever asked, where does that money go? That money goes 100% to the city. 100% of that money goes to the city coffers. And then the city takes that money and says, okay, we're going to give, don't press it here, I don't know the exact number. We can get back to you. But they say, we can give you whatever, 2 or 3% to your Parks Department budget. So we just sent you millions of dollars, just between the Terrace in the Park and the USTA, we probably sent you maybe close to $5 million. How much are you sending us back? And I think that is where, in my investigations of why, because I also wanted to understand, is this alliance the best thing for our community? And when I found out that Prospect Park takes a portion of their revenues, of their the money that's generated through their concessions, they get it back, and so does Central Park. But we have an opportunity that none of them have, that we now, because of this deal, have a contributor to get the ball rolling. So tenemos una oportunidad que ninguno de ellos cuando empezaron tenían, es que tenemos una persona, una entidad que va a contribuir. Y eso es lo que tienen ellos, que es el living payment. So the USTA for the first 3 years, por los primeros 3 años, will give $350,000 per year. So por los primeros 3 años va a contribuir $350,000. Thereafter, they will provide a regular annual funding of $200,000 a year for 20 years. Y después de eso, por 20 años van a contribuir $200,000 por 20 años. So whoever is 5 right now in kindergarten, that I'm hoping will benefit from the other programs that we're going to mention, will also be able to benefit greatly from what their park will become and our vision. So I know that in the questions we asked how this alliance will be formed, we're going to have a lot of public conversations. This alliance was not signed on the day of this deal. It's just delineating that these monies will be dedicated to when the alliance is formed. The alliance will have a community arm, so community-based organizations and community people that would like to join. The reality is that when you create a board of this magnitude, it also has to raise money. We can't just expect the USTA's contribution to keep this sustainable. So we're going to knock on the doors of the New York Mets. We're going to knock on the doors of everybody else in this neighborhood. People that have, who has knocked on the door of the airport, the Port Authority, of all those airlines? Because when I'm sleeping and hearing those airplanes flying over all of our homes, has anybody asked them to contribute to our park that they fly over every day? And it's interesting because somebody tweeted me a couple of days ago a picture of my neighborhood from an airplane. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if JetBlue would get to this alliance? So let's set it up for them. But we can't ask for money if we don't have an entity, a solid entity that will contribute. This entity will have representatives from the mayor's office, it will have representatives from Parks Department, it will have representatives from the community, from the business community, from the clergy. We want it to be a well-rounded board. Clearly, the first arm of the board is to raise money. Just like I'm a member of a national board, my commitment, I have to commit to raising a certain amount of dollars every year. And trust me, when that dollar, when it comes that time of year around, they're like, Julissa, what's going on? So, la alianza va a tener una parte comunitaria, un brazo, vamos a decir un brazo por ahora, comunitario, donde la comunidad puede reunirse y ahí se va a hablar más sobre la operación, ¿verdad? Como cosas que nosotros queremos ver en el parque, programas que deben de ocurrir en el parque. Después va a tener un brazo que es la Junta Ejecutiva, donde se va a recaudar los fondos necesarios, porque este dinero de USTA es muy bueno, pero se necesita más. Then the alliance is a supplement to what Parks Department has to give. We're not saying we're going to create this so that Parks Department can wash their hands. And it's clearly stated in any agreement that we have in the city. So if you give us now $10 million, you still have to give us those $10 million. But if the alliance is able to raise another $10 million, and we can hire more people to clean the park, we can hire more security in the park, we can do more improvements in the park, and that's where the alliance comes and steps in. So that was the alliance, and I'm sure we'll have questions, and I'm glad to answer it. They've committed, the USTA has also committed to giving quarterly presentations to the community boards. El USTA, el PNC ha también asegurado de que va a dar presentaciones a las juntas comunitarias cada término, cada 3 meses, de qué está pasando, qué viene, qué no viene. Bi-monthly upcoming events, newsletters. So ellos se han comprometido de cada 2 semanas hacer una carta informativa que le van a hacer llegar a las iglesias, a los centros comunitarios, de lo que está pasando dentro del tenis. O si hay un evento que ustedes pueden participar, ellos tienen que salir y hacerlo. And I think, sometimes we hear, oh, a newsletter. But the difference is here that they've had information that they've never shared before. And they never figured out how to share it. And they're like, oh, we could do a newsletter. Great. Now you need to share it with your partners, which is the church and community boards and other organizations and the schools. So annual Queens Day will be a day where Queens residents can go and participate in different events within the park, but also within the USTA. Todos los años va a haber un evento dedicado a Queens, donde se va a ver el entertainment, voy a quedar
entretenimiento.
Entretenimiento, nuestra cultura. I don't know if anybody was around and remembers Queens Day.
Yes.
Yes? So there are still a few people that remember Queens Day. Karen Kozowitz, Councilmember Karen Kozowitz, remembers Queens Day. So I sat with her, and she had to explain to me what Queens Day was. And then I remembered Queens Day, but I was very young. Not to say that she's, whatever. She remembers Queens Day. But this is the example of why we need to continue to do this, and as a community, we need to remember this, because we don't want people to forget. So they committed to reinvesting in Queens Day. When they sing the national anthem before every game at the USTA, that event to recruit the singers and the talent every year was done in Harlem. Every year. And I was like, that is the easiest thing to do in Queens. We have a theater. It's called Queens Theater in the Park. We want the anthems to be done in our flagship park. So that one was, we didn't have a big fight about that. So the auditions for their singing, and you would think, oh, like, what's the big deal to this? So why would that even be in the list? The big deal is that the USTA is a worldwide sport. And every time that I can get them to say Corona Flushing Meadows Park is a victory for our community. Because we will be seen as a destination. And that is what this is about. I don't want Corona to only be promoted about the sex trafficking on Roosevelt Avenue, which is a very big problem that we're working on. But we also have this wonderful opportunity to be able to promote our community and for people to understand that people like me were raised here and that I live, and I have pride in where I grew up. And I know you talked about Flushing Meadows. Let me tell you, Flushing Meadows was my backyard because many of us grew up in apartments. And if you grow up in an apartment, you don't have a backyard. I was very proud of my backyard. I had a really big baseball field, tennis courts. I had a globe, as what we called it back then. Later it grew as the Uniswim. If there was a swimming pool, there's a good one now too. We got another one. But that's where I learned how to ice skate. Was at Flush, remember ice skating rink? That's where I learned how to ice skate. And these were opportunities that we had. So we just need to make this destination an even better one. Then we have our annual US Open Job Fair exclusively for Queens residents. So whenever they have a job fair, o cuando tengan los empleos que se presentan, ellos se pusieron de acuerdo de que un día antes de cuando abran las puertas generales para todos, porque hay gente que toman esas 2 semanas de vacaciones de su trabajo para venir a trabajar en el US Open. The reality is that I know many people who take those 2 weeks off just so that they could work at the US Open. Because the US Open pays better than where they are. I know people that come from Chicago, take their vacation in Chicago and come and work at the US Open. So what we are doing is we're opening the opportunity to Queens residents first. So they're applying first. And that will Um, so that will happen the day before their general, whenever the general day is. You know, obviously we can't put dates to this because the calendars change. Um, this is something that I really wanted to share with you because it's really moving to me. I grew up, as you know, I grew up in this neighborhood. I went to PS 19 when it wasn't so overcrowded. And PS 19 right now is the most overcrowded elementary school in the country. It is so overcrowded that you have to split the graduation so that parents can watch their kids walk down the aisle, but you can't do it at the same time because not everybody fits in the 348 capacity auditorium. Thank you. In the 348 capacity auditorium. So most of the time our schools go to the clothing center. And many of our immigrant families, it's the first time they even go to the clothing center. There's no train over there. That's Queens College, who I love. You know, no disrespect to Queens College. But they have to go all the way to another neighborhood to watch their elementary school child graduate. There was nothing more proud for me than being part of the color guard and walking down my auditorium to be able to participate in my graduation with all my friends. So I've asked the USDA to open their site to graduations for the schools in our neighborhood at cost, which is nominal. So any school in our area that wants to do their graduation with the rain date, I make sure that they have to come into also give them a rain date. You can graduate at the USDA. Could you imagine what that would be for a young person to see a site like that and to be able to understand how important graduations are so they could be excited about their next graduation for junior high school and their following graduation for high school and then college? And you don't have to figure out if my cousin and I are going to be the same graduating schedule and what stress it must be for a principal to try to figure all this out. So this is something that the USDA agreed to, and I was very happy. And I guess this is my being school background and why I get so passionate about that. Classroom accessibility and facility accessibility. The reality is the USDA's money generating opportunities happen in 3 weeks. And what about the other weeks, the 49 other weeks? There's an opportunity that if you're a nonprofit organization and you need to have meetings, you can use the space for free. And if anybody knows, we have a dire need for space in our community. If you're a nonprofit organization and you even want to have a meeting in a public school right now, this organization will fit. You have to pay security, you have to pay the rental, you have to pay for a bathroom, you have to pay for a whole host of things to be able to use a public school space, one classroom. This is a facility that has now agreed to opening their doors to meetings. And that's to the business owners that works for a nonprofit organization, a mommy and me class, whatever we want to organize, they have committed to opening their facilities and doors. Author Ash Kids Day. So it is amazing to me that Author Ash Kids Day is a day that's promoted for free. You can go and watch, and they do a whole concert for the kids, and it's a day for the kids. Our community, and anybody here from the press, you can go to Roosevelt Avenue right now and ask any child, when was the last time you went to Author Ash Kids Day? They will look at you like, what are you talking about? Who's Author Ash? And when's the Kids Day? And that is what we need to change. So they've committed to giving 5,000 tickets to our area students through the community boards and through nonprofit organizations, and we're trying to figure out how else we can make sure that this is trickled down properly. For 5,000 of those students, so they can learn the law. I still believe that we can get a Serena Williams, we can have a Jose Fernandez, right? Or some young person from Corona. How proud would we be if it's a young person from Corona that is able to play professional tennis?
someone that's going to be starting right now. Like, why not? It's totally plausible. But if you don't bring the kids into the stadium, they won't know what it is. They can't even imagine what tennis is about. And especially with our obesity program, we got to get our kids moving and doing different things. So then that's where we go into the community tennis programs. We have the New York Junior Tennis League, the early morning winter program, the City Parks Foundation Reebok Junior program, the year-round community tennis program, the Long Island Metro Tennis Expo, the New York Tennis Summer Junior Tennis program, the U.S. Open Ball Person Tryouts, the HERO, which is Help Expand Recreational Opportunities program, and the Spring Fall Outdoor Early Morning Kids program. Now this is how we're going to get our young people really vested into tennis. And the USTA has committed to making sure that we have slots available for our kids in our area. And when you talk about our kids in our area, you're talking about our surrounding communities. You're not just talking about Portland. You're talking about Flushing and Forest Hills and other areas, so that they know that if you come from our area, you have a priority in this program. We have the adaptive tennis program, which is a really important program. Flushing Meadows Park, unlike other parks in New York City, is one of the parks that has wheelchair accessibility at most of their facilities. So if you have a disabled child that oftentimes does not have a place to go, or you don't have a place to take them, you can really take advantage of Flushing Meadows for them. El parque de Flushing es un parque que es muy conocido para los niños que tengan deshabilidades, que no se puedan mover, que estén en silla de ruedas, que tienen otra problemática. Es una oportunidad para ellos poder beneficiarse de todos los locales, el teatro, el museo, el Hall of Science, también el centro de tenis, tiene accesibilidad a esos niños. Yo creo que también es muy importante. The summer movie screening series, they're going to be showing free movies. So en el verano van a estar dando películas gratis para la familia que ustedes pueden llevar a sus niños a ver películas gratis en el parque, en Flushing Meadows, en el USTA. Let's talk about annual job fair. So much stuff. They've agreed to. One of the issues that we also had is how do we get all this revenue generating dollars outside of the USTA? Which is kind of conflicting, right? They're selling their spots to their sponsors. So why would they want to have people leave the tennis stadium? And I said, that's not my problem. We need them to get out of the tennis stadium. We need them to get out of your doors and your walls and your gates. We need them to go to have an empanada on Roosevelt Avenue. We need them to go and have some chicharrones in Corona. To stop before, get off one or two stops before you get to the location. And we need those dollars to be generated by our local businesses, because it makes no point that they're generating all these dollars, but our community doesn't see it. So they've agreed to work with the bid. There's a Flushing bid. Peter Koo is very interested in ensuring that, Councilmember Koo, that people were referred to other businesses and other restaurants, because a lot of times families go to the U.S. Open and they don't want to spend the whole day there. You know, you could watch tennis, but the whole day. So they also want to eat. And you know, why not refer them to Parkside? Why not refer them to Pio Pio? Why not refer them to, you know, Mama's? Right here, right?
No parking space.
Well, a lot of these people come by train, so they'll walk. I'm just going to kind of speed it up because I want to hear some of your questions. But so the USTA's future is also, they understand that it's tied to the local businesses and contributes to local businesses. There's a kiosk that's run by the Queens Economic Development Corporation that specifically, when people come and stop and ask for information, most of the time is to find out where so-and-so is playing, like where they are in the park. It's an opportunity to tell them, and by the way, these are the things that are also outside. They have the ACES program, and we have the annual tennis and health event that will also be promoted. And you know, I just really want to thank, I didn't do this alone. This was a lot of work, a lot of hours. New Yorkers for Parks, the Fairness Coalition, Europe Coalition, and everyone else who really had expressed their concerns. And again, this is only as, this can only be as strong as the use that we give it. So I need you all to now use the USSA. We have to go there. We have to show our presence. And we have to show them that you open your doors and you will come. So I also ask you to take benefit, to take, do whatever you can to participate in the US Open events. Thank you. I know you have some questions.
I don't know how the agenda goes, but I have one. Actually, I have more than 100.
Oh, well, we don't have time for 100 tonight, please.
I have to go through the agenda, I know. It sounds so good for the park department, but for the community, I believe 5% where the money goes. You know, they take $10 million to the city hall in Corona and get back what? Nothing, because I don't see that in the community. But, and you mentioned that you want the people who come to patronize the business owner. We don't have the space here, and I know that many of them, they just come in and just drive back to wherever they came from. Now, I have one question that was given to me here. What is the timeline for completing the work on the new tennis stadiums and the parking facilities? When will the construction begin? What impact will be felt by the residents in the vicinity of the park? And also, we're waiting to hear something about affordable housing, but that's just my question. I have so many questions. If you can tell us a little bit about the time frame that is the work done, the impact that it's going to have the community. And I tell you, I have to take that exit every morning. And I know when the stadium, when I'm coming back tired, and either City Field is coming out or the stadium, the tennis stadium, I get frustrated to get to my home, which is so close to that stadium.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's my headache too.
And I know that I don't get anything from there, from the people that come to relax and have
Well, I think that, we should engage in, when it comes to the business perspective, and not answer your other questions, but the business perspective, we also have to engage with PVC, and also demand from them, right? They are playing a vital role in trying to be the bridge for our community, so we should probably have a meeting with them, with the small business owners, and try to facilitate a way where we can say, we just don't want this to be referred to some restaurants and not others, or some businesses and not others. So I think that would be a step in the right direction. Construction is slated to begin at early January of 2014. And that is the first step for the roadway, the road that's going to kind of come around and reassign and go back into the highway within the park. This is about a 10-year construction. Unlike other constructions, this is a little different where we will probably see the most impact on the roadway construction, and then they're going to be building within their site. So unlike, I think other constructions that we may look at, they're outside and they have to do staging kind of everywhere. This is kind of will be encapsulated within their fencing. And they're going to be pushing out that 0.68 acres, which is the road. If we're coming from the Hall of Science, I wish I should have brought the visual, but if we're coming from the Hall of Science and kind of going into the park, it's the road right where you're kind of going towards the Unisphere. So that's what they will be taking the 0.68 acres from. So that's, I think, what we'll see the biggest challenge. And again, when we talk about this, we also had conversations about the trees that are going to be removed, and they have to give back and replant. And any tree that they do not replant, they have to give the money equivalent to that. And that money will come 100% back to the park. That's something that was also discussed in the committee in this year, through parks department. So those trees, the ones that can't be replanted, they have to pay for it. And it's like, it's almost, and it's a formula within parks, which is, and forestry, which is on the federal level, there's a formula that reflects the equivalent of the value for a lifetime of that tree. So it's not just, oh, you know, what the tree cost when you planted it, and it's also, you can't replace an older tree with a very, because a lot of our trees are very old and have wonderful foliage. You can't replace that tree with a just old tree that we've seen, you know, in a lot of our communities in the parks that they plant with older trees. So that's the construction time. And, you know, the impact is the real impact. And the other part of this conversation that I failed to mention was the parking on grass. So when I engaged about the parking on grass with the USDA, I realized that once we pulled back all the layers, it is a challenge, it's a multi-agency problem. So it's not just the US, we see it as the USDA because it happens with the USDA. But this is an NYPD and parks involved. So it's NYPD who dictates where the cars park. And NYPD's priority is the Grand Central getting backed up, so we gotta move them. So there's traffic on the Grand Central, move them, park them wherever you can. So then now there's going to be a task force that is being put together where community residents, community board members, elected officials, NYPD, DOT, and parks will meet once a quarter, not 2 weeks before the USDA, once a quarter to mitigate and make sure that parking on grass is the absolute last option. Absolutely. So just like everyone else, right, and the traffic issues. So that's where you'll be able to go and say, you know what? I come home at this time, this is incredibly inconvenient, how can we figure this out? And we will have the top brass of the NYPD. One of the challenges that we faced after 9/11, the NYPD's presence in the park is very different. So there's multi-agencies, not just the 110 and this task force, it's everybody, from the very top to the very bottom, because it is a location where, you know, God forbid, there could be terrorist attacks. That's the last thing we would want. But it also shouldn't justify that we have 3,000 cars parked on grass when they could be parked at other lots that have been identified in the park, other asphalt lots. So that's something that we also have stayed committed and engaged in those conversations to help mitigate the parking on grass. And I know that wasn't part of your question, but it has to do with traffic.
So the 0.6A is going to be taken, the 0.6A acres is going to be taken on the right side before the overpass on the LIE or on the other side?
On the LIE, but just so that we understand, you know where the street curves in, where we can kind of go up?
Go over the
right.
LIE.
So that area right there already belongs to the state in their lease. What the 0.68 acres are, is if we were to go and make that right, that left, that little strip there, that's where the 0.68
So we'll be next to the lake,
No, right next to the stadium.
before the LIE, that's what I'm
No. We can give you the details.
Okay, no
We'll
problem.
give you the maps with the
It's
details.
okay.
And then, you know, this is another thing. It happened so early in the conversation, but the USDA has also committed to releasing from their lease the double, it was 0.5 acres, 0.3 acres of property that they have currently in their lease on the other side. That will now become public space. So and that was part of the alienation deal. So they'll take the points they release that on the top, which is where by the putting, the golf, the miniature golf, up in that area. They will release that back to the public, and it will be public tennis courts. Okay.
I'm sorry, who will take care of everything else when you go maternity or resign? Is there anyone that?
What do you mean to take care of everything?
So what's gonna happen after when you go?
Well, I don't die. I am probably one of the most micromanaging people. My chief of staff is there. I staff of 8 people in my office. Um, I live very close to the office. These are all things that will take a long time for us to kind of see. So I will be on maternity leave and enjoying maternity leave. I think it's a right that every woman has. As chair of women's issues, I expect every woman to take maternity leave. But the office will still run, the doors will be open, and we'll still be providing services and, you know,
There's making it go smoothly.
you can always go to my office, my chief of staff, just now is here. But everyone, you know, my doors are open. Whoever is sitting at that desk is qualified to represent me to help with any of these issues. Okay?
We have a last question, but before I want, sorry.
Why is everybody getting nervous?
I want to say thank you so much, of the people for working so hard, even you are expecting maybe. So you're still working. And
He's gonna have to be something big in life.
I'm going to say thank you. Another last question for you is, could you please share with us your current working?
It's okay.
Decirle a Jiménez, yo quisiera
For the
decir,
previous point development and how you have developed the
decirle que
development
porque
within
la fuente, porque
the
le da buen agua a la
community.
fuente embellece el
Okay.
y le ha quitado el agua.
So, as you all know, in 2008, there was a proposal
No, vale.
to redevelop the
Toda la gente
I'm currently in the midst
el agua
of
de la fuente.
negotiations with the city. When they want to say one thing, I say another, and we have to find.
Sí, no tenga
we
temor.
have problems, right?
¿Quiere que le...
But the reality is that what's before me, and I want people to understand, what's before me in the council is an amendment to what was already approved in 2008. In 2008, we fought really hard, and I remember being in those negotiations to get 35% affordable housing, the relocation of the guys over at Williams Point, and a whole host of issues. My priority remains that we need to get appropriate affordable housing. And we need to ensure that we have the funding necessary to build those ramps. So I know that we talk about the ramps, you know, ensuring that we build the ramps. The reality is that the ramps are going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And, you know, my question currently to the city is what is their commitment to ensure and how are we engaging the federal government, so our federal elected, our state elected, and our city to build those ramps. And if we want to have this affordable housing of 897 apartments that is so sorely needed in our neighborhood, we also have to start engaging in that conversation and getting the commitment now. So my first priority is affordable housing. Then we have the issue with the workers at Williams Point, which is a very real, those are our neighbors. That's where we go get our cars fixed. You know, some of us don't have the luxury of going to the dealership and spending the cost that it costs to get our cars fixed. There's very able mechanics at Williams Point that provide a service for our community. You know, some people look at it as a private area, which, you know, if you drive by there, you might not even know where you are if somebody doesn't tell you. If you drive through the streets of Williams Point. You know, there's some streets like that in the Dominican Republic. And you might lose them off there. But the reality is that we have a vision for that area, and a vision can happen, and I think